Hello, friends. Jim Hale with you here. And can you believe it? We are in Rome. We are, in fact, inside of Vatican City at this very moment. You can get into Italy now with only a negative COVID test. So we just landed a couple of hours ago standing in front of St. Peter's at the golden hour. Wouldn't want to be anyplace else because Pope Francis just announced about a week ago that he was going to consecrate Russia and Ukraine to Our Lady, to Our Lady's Immaculate Heart. So this is really and truly happening as we seek a supernatural solution to all the horror that is going on right now in the world. Many of you sort of know the situation. I think that most people who study Fatima would agree that the conditions set by Our Lady have not quite been fulfilled. So this is the opportunity to do it. We actually have two really great articles on LifeSiteNews.com right now, and I would encourage you to go read both of those articles by the French Fatima scholar Yves de Leroux. He's a Fatima scholar of the finest caliber, and his take on this is that the text has already been released, so he doesn't think that that this quite does the trick. On the other hand, Bishop Schneider is saying that he thinks that it does. So a couple of fascinating perspectives for you there that you should go and read before all this takes place tomorrow. But I just got to tell you, I was here 2.5 years ago for the entire 5 weeks of the Pan-Amazonian Synod. And right now we're standing right out in front of this very famous church, Santa Maria in Transpontina. So this is the place where they had all the Pachamama stashed, during the whole Pan-Amazonian Synod. This is where it was like the communists were hanging out in here. I just gotta say it. That was the truth. And so this is the church. Alexander Sugarwell walked right in those doors, snatched the Pachamamas that morning, came out with them. He looked down that way and he saw some police down that way. So instead he turned this way, went right down that alley, went behind the church, and then circled back around in front of Castel Sant'Angelo and splashed them into the Tiber River, one of the great capers of all time. So just to give you a little feel for where we are right now. But anyway, let's walk back over here. And I want to take this time to introduce you to a couple of our new staffers here at LifeSite News. Come on in here, fellas. And I am so pleased to introduce you to Mr. Louis Knuffke, who is our new Rome correspondent. And standing right next to him is Pierre Boralevi, who's one of our full-time staff writers and part of our UK team. Gentlemen, welcome to LifeSite News.
Thank you, Jim. I'm very honored to be reporting on this event and to be here in Rome right at this time.
Yes. So, Louis, you are an American, as some folks might have detected by now, Californian, but you're a student here.
I am. I'm a doctoral student at the Angelicum, getting a doctorate in theology, and in some ways that helps me serve what I'm doing here for LifeSite, just because a lot of what happens in the church needs a theological perspective.
Right. And for those who don't know, what is the Angelicum?
So the Angelicum is the Dominican university here in Rome, and it's actually the university that John Paul II got his doctorate in theology. And so we have a room, where he defended his dissertation, and one of the trees out in the garden is where he used to hang out and, sit beneath as he studied and ate his lunch.
Oh, wow. When you're in Rome, every corner you turn, everywhere you go, it's like, wait a minute, what am I just looking at?
Right, yeah. I just came from praying the rosary before the tomb of John Paul II. And you turn around, there's St. Peter and one altar, is John Paul II, another, the Pietà, other apostles, the manger. So, yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, Louis, it's so good to have you here. It's been a while since we've had a Rome correspondent. Now, how's your Italian coming?
My Italian's not great. I hang out with a lot of Americans at the Angelicum, so working on that. My Latin's good. I had that before coming over. So if you want to converse in Latin, I could do that.
That's right. So you're a headmaster. So you're an educator.
Yeah, right. So before coming over, I had studied with the Dominicans in Washington, D.C., and then I also served as a headmaster at a classical school, Chesterton Academy of Annapolis.
But when you're working here, so when you go, like the press conferences are held in that building right down there, the Sala Stampa, that's where the famous Vatican press conferences are held every single day. But you're able to listen to an English translation in real time, correct?
Yeah. In Italy, they actually surprisingly have a lot of English. You'll see at the restaurants, and so it's been fairly easy to get around, including the press conferences and events.
Can I get you to comment on this momentous event that's going to take place about 24 hours from now?
Yeah, well, so the consecration of Russia, as you mentioned, has been something long desired, requested, about a century ago by Our Lady. And from my perspective, I actually know a few priests who suffered from, what you could call the errors of Russia being spread throughout the world. When I was young, I was at a Chinese mission parish in Fresno, California. And the two priests that I knew growing up came from one China and then the other Hong Kong. And so the first priest, Father Francis Chung, he saw the communist takeover. And so obviously this was, communism spreading from Russia into Asia. And in order to become a priest, he actually had to escape by canoe from China to Hong Kong and had to go into hiding in the seminary because he was being hunted by the Chinese police. And his rector, Father Vincent Lau, sent him over to America to minister to the Chinese Catholics in California, which is how he came to St. Genevieve's, which is my home parish. And when Father Francis Chung died, when I was about 10 years old, Father Vincent Lau came to take his place. And he also had suffered a lot under the communists. They had both worked in the underground church there in China. And in Hong Kong itself, even though it was free for a time, the communists had a large presence. And Father Lau was silenced several times in his preaching, particularly on the feasts of Christ the King. They would have processions to the Capitol. And I remember when I was probably a teenager, one Sunday he announced that he had just received news from Hong Kong that the last of his classmates from the seminary had died a martyr, imprisoned by the communists. So all of his classmates died under the communists because of persecution. And so that, growing up with that was very formative.
Yeah.
We always heard about the underground church in China and the need to turn to Our Lady. Father Francis Chung, he practiced the First Friday devotions. And so I grew up knowing that the message of Our Lady of Fatima, that we need to turn to her, turn to the Rosary for peace. That was very much a part of the daily life of the church in China.
And that's important to point out, that this is also about reparation.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I look around. You travel through Europe, through America. We see the errors of Russia in our own way in the West, and I heard from some sisters from Eastern Europe. They said once the Iron Curtain fell, the materialism that just flooded in from the West was actually in some ways worse than what they had seen under the communists.
I've seen that myself. It was really shocking, just how they wanted to so immediately brace all the worst of our culture, and I almost wanted to stop and say, no, don't do it.
Yeah. So the conversion of Russia, it perhaps is going to be Our Lady converting this country, but then also using it to reconvert the West. I mean, John Paul II was so clear. In the West, we have. For decades, we've been suffering from the silent apostasy. And, so many tourists here in Rome I meet, and they have no idea about what Christianity is, who the saints are that they're seeing. Yeah, right. They don't know anything about the apostles. They've never read the gospel. And so the need to re-evangelize not just Russia, but the West is a great need. Yeah. And Our Lady's the instrument,
Thank you for saying it. I don't know, Louis, but I just have this spirit of incredible optimism right now. It's 2 years of COVID, and it's like a week ago, if you told me I'd be in Rome right now, I would have said, you're crazy. But here we are, and I don't know. I think the Holy Spirit may be with us here.
Yeah, the day before, or maybe it was the day of, the day that the Pope announced he would consecrate Russia and Ukraine, we had just been discussing at LifeSite, that the real solution to the war in Ukraine and, the greater spiritual problem of secularism and materialism is the consecration to Our Lady. I mean, it's like St. Louis de Montfort says, you go to Our Lady, she takes you to Jesus. Right. You say Mary, she says Jesus,
Thank you. We need supernatural help, Louis, more than any time that I can remember in my lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank Louis Knuffke. It's so good to meet you, brother. So good to have you here in Rome, and I just look forward to spending many more times with you. And we got to go have some dinner and enjoy ourselves some good red wine while we're here too.
That's right. Okay. Grace is for the soul, and some good Italian food for the body.
Amen. Wherever the Catholic Church does shine, there's food and dance and good red wine. All right, now on that note, let's bring my buddy in here, Pierre Boralevi. We've actually had a couple of glasses of red wine, I got to admit, already today as soon as we landed. Pierre, I've gotten to know this young man in the last couple of hours. What an incredible life you've had, Pierre. So his name is Pierre Boralevi, and he speaks how many languages?
About 4. So French, obviously, as my native language, English, German, and a little bit of Italian as well.
Yes, and so you're based now in the UK?
I'm based in the UK, not very far from London, yes.
Yeah. Pierre, we just had a fascinating conversation about an hour ago over some good pasta about why what is happening right now in the church is about to happen right there in St. Peter's Basilica tomorrow is so important. Why is it?
Yes, it is indeed. And I would like to say that I share some of your sentiments. What you said earlier about, I would have never expected to have been here in Rome. If you told me a week from now that I would be in Rome reporting on the consecration of Russia by Pope Francis, I would have told you no way. But here we are. It is a very important event. And as we discussed a little bit earlier, I think you can sort of understand that how important the message of Fatima is just by looking at the different popes throughout history, ever since the consecration has been requested by Our Lady, and see that there hasn't been a single pope since then that has been able to sort of, in a way, escape Fatima. They all have had to deal with it one way or another. Yeah. So you've had, for instance, John Paul XXIII, and they've either had to dismiss the whole thing and say, oh, this is not for our pontificate, or they've had to somehow reassure part of the Catholic community and perform various consecrations throughout the years, throughout the decades. And here we are with the new consecration. And I believe for the first time, not only is Russia going to be explicitly mentioned in the consecration, but also apparently most of the bishops of the world are going to take part in it.
So there you go.
Yes. And then, of course, there's two sides of the argument, right? So you've got people on the Yves de Lassou argument side that say, well, that's all very well, but obviously Pope Francis since then has sort of changed the content of the consecration. And
so he said others. He said and others.
He mentions humanity, which is obviously a much broader concept. And some people would argue that it really needs to be Russia explicitly and only, because only that way can it be quite clear that heaven is intervening directly. Because if a conversion of Russia does ensue from that consecration, then it becomes very obvious, even to the atheist person, that something is happening here. Whereas if it's the world, it's a little bit more vague. Then obviously on the other side of the argument, you've got Bishop Schneider, who says, well, for the first time in history, actually, Russia is going to be explicitly mentioned in union with the Bishop of the World, and that sort of fulfills Our Lady's request. I can sort of see both sides of the arguments, and if you ask me my personal opinion, I would say I would be one to say, just let's wait and see what happens.
Okay. I love that's right. We're reporters, so we have to wait and see. All right. Well, the anticipation in Rome right now is really high, and it's an exciting time to be here because it just seems like we're in such a desperate situation, Pierre. So let's get supernatural about this.
Exactly. And in a way, you can sort of see heaven. There's a unique opportunity here for Pope Francis to do the right thing, and for heaven to intervene, and hopefully that will happen. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Pierre, it's been such a joy to meet you just today. I feel like we're old friends. You know, it's nice to have a guy like this, a sophisticated, educated European guy. He's running around town here with a Texan and a South Carolinian behind the camera over there. So he really enhances our profile because he orders in Italian at the restaurants, and you get treated a little bit better. So thank you for teaching us. You're trying to help us out here, Pierre. So we appreciate that.
Obviously, well, it's an honor to work for LifeSite and to have met you, Jim, for the first time since I've worked for LifeSite.
Yes, indeed. Well, we can't wait to see you. 24 hours from now, it's all going to take place at St. Peter's Basilica. What a blessing it is to be here. And by the way, for all of those of you who are watching who are donors, thank you for making this possible. Thank you so much, because I would not want to be anywhere else in the world. So we're going to be right back here tomorrow, and we're going to be telling you everything that happened. We're going to capture it. We're going to get responses from people who witnessed it. So you know where to find us, lifesitenews.com. Reporting from Vatican City with Pierre Boralevi, Louis Knuffke, and Michael Hogan, I am Jim Hale, LifeSite News.